Hey everyone, we appreciate you joining us in the Huddle. I'm your host, 15-year NFL quarterback Gus Frerotte, alongside my longtime friend and co-host Dave Hager, where we talk to guests about how sports shape their life. Be sure to check us out on our website, huddleupwithgus.com, where you can listen to more episodes just like this. Now, let's join the Huddle. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Huddle Up with Gus. I'm your host, Gus Frerotte, 15-year NFL quarterback. And I'm usually joined by my co-host, Dave Hager, but Dave is not here. He got a new job, and we wish him all the best with that. But today we have an amazing guest, and I'm really excited to talk with this guest because we actually played for the same team. He was a little bit before me. This guy, I don't even know how much I need to say. If I say his name, you're going to know everything about him. He's a Heisman Trophy winner, Collegiate Hall of Fame. He's just done it all. He's a bobsledder, mixed martial arts. He supports the veterans. Just does numerous things. He was a track star and just an amazing NFL player. Herschel Walker is joining us today. Herschel, thanks for joining us in the Huddle. Now, I appreciate you coming, man. It's a pleasure to talk to you. I mean, when I was growing up, kind of the late 80s, that's when you were kind of hitting your stride. And, I graduated high school in 89 and I go to college and, to Tulsa through that time. And I followed your career and I never thought I was going to play in the NFL, and just it worked out for me. But you had a whole different path. So tell me about the first time in your life. Do you remember where sports became a big part of your life? And what's that first memory you fell in love with?
It is strange because I fell in love with a coach. I don't know whether it was the sports itself. I was overweight as a little kid growing up, and I used to have a speech impediment where I used to be bullied. I was bullied a great deal, and a lot of kids used to, pick on me, and no one ever gave me the time of day. And I had two older brothers that was very good athletes and stuff, and I had this coach by the name of Tom Jordan, and he was a track coach, and also he coached the linebackers in football and high school football, and all of a sudden, as he was looking at me one day, he figured that this kid got to have something. He got two older brothers that are great athletes, so He's got to have something. And, kids were picking on me, and all of a sudden this coach used to come pick me up after church on Sundays. And he would take me out to the track, and sometimes we'll sit out in the stadium, and he'll just talk to me, and every now and then we'll go out and work out, and I call myself working out. I didn't know what I was doing, and he took the time out to make me feel good about Herschel Walker, took the time out to make me feel good about myself. Because for a long time, I didn't feel good about me. I never spoke in a classroom. I never said anything, but that coach made me feel good about myself, and so I believed in him. And when I started getting better at different things, he used to tell me that, Herschel, you can do it. And because he told me I can do it, I knew I can do it. If he said I can do it, I knew I can do it. And it wasn't that I thought I was trying to be an athlete. I was just trying to please him and thank him for everything he did for me. And what was weird, I remember it may have been my freshman year in high school. I was a backup. I was a starting fullback, but I was a backup tailback. And the fullback not going to get that many carries. He just
Right. Yeah, there's a trap coming your way every now and then.
I tell you what, I'm not the greatest block in the world, even though I can do it, but I'm not going to do it all the time. And it was strange because we went into a city in Augusta, Georgia, and I still can remember this, and this is years ago. And the starting tailback got hurt. And that Coach Jordan, went to the head coach and said, I think you ought to put Herschel back there. And the coach said, Herschel don't know this stuff. And he said, Coach, I can tell you right now, he knows what he's going to do. Well, I still remember in that game it was against Aquinas. The team was called Aquinas. I had about 19 carries for about 280-something yards. And I believed in the coach. I didn't believe that I can do it, but he said, I knew you can do it, Herschel, because you've been working. So a lot of people don't work the way you work. And what was weird about that, the next game, they moved me back to fullback, moved him back to tailback, and I played fullback the rest of the year. But I realized at that time, as long as you work, you're going to be okay. People think it just happens, and I tell people all the time, nothing just happens. You have to get out and work. Everyone want the golden ring, but nobody want to work to get it. And you know this in football. Everybody want to win the Super Bowl.
Right.
Teams that win the Super Bowl work their tail off from the beginning. They don't just go out there and all of a sudden they get lucky and win the Super Bowl. That doesn't happen. So I realized then, not that I was going to be an athlete, but I will work at everything I go out to do. Doesn't matter what it is, I'm going to work at it. That's the reason I'm so stupid now, that I just work at whatever I'm doing, and not that I'm successful. I just make sure that I want to be able to compete.
Yeah, and sometimes when you compete, no matter what you do, I had a gentleman, he got through to me on Messenger on Facebook, and he asked me, he says, "Hey, Gus, what should I do? I want to start this new thing, but I'm really scared." And I said, "Look, if you put your heart and soul into it and you work hard at it every day, good things are going to happen. They might not be right away, but if you just stay hard-nosed and just, just keep pounding away at it, something good is going to happen." So when you were young, you talk about this work ethic. Did you have some of that good support at home? Because
Yes.
we all need a great coach, but you also need to go home and get that support as well.
I had like two parents, and I had a bunch of brothers and sisters. I had 3 brothers and 3 sisters. And one thing that was very interesting that happened to me, and this is weird because my parents worked all their life, and I told people my mom and dad, they worked all their life, but they would just come home from work, and no matter what the kids were doing outside, my parents would take the time to go out and play with us. They take the time to go out and play with us, and something happened to me, and this is on one of my military trips, but what was weird is about my mom she's going to be 84 coming up. This probably about 5 years ago. She was right at 79. Well, my mom at 79, because when we go to my mom's house today, my nephews and niece have gotten bigger, so it's like going to the Olympics. You got to be in shape. You got to be ready, because they want to compete against you.
Yeah.
Well, we were out there, and they started getting a basketball game together. My mom was sitting out there, and my mom said, "I want to play." She's 79. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I'm not going to pick my mom because she can't play. She can't guard nobody. She's going, "I like to play with you guys." I'm not picking my mom because I'm going to win. I can't win with my mom and stuff, so nobody picked her. And what was weird, I was on one of my military trips, and I was talking and stuff, and it hit me. What hit me is something you just said, is that how much work did you do? Where did it come from? And I said, wait a minute, my mom was 79 years old, and she still wanted to play with me. And when I was a little boy, every day they came home, they took the time out to go and play with us. 79 want to play with me still, and I said no, because I wanted to win. And I apologized to my mom years later. What I was talking about, I said, "Mom, I thank you and Dad for giving me that work ethic. I thank you guys for giving me that." And I said, "I'm so sorry." And I said, that's where it comes from, is my parents, because they say you got to grind. You know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you got to grind. And I tell my son this as a Christian: if you want something in life, you got to get up early to go get it. And if your opponent is getting up at 5 o'clock, you got to get up at 4. He gets up at 4, you get up at 3. He get up at 3, you get up at 2. He get up at 2. Don't go to sleep, because and I'm saying it's okay if you don't want it. If you don't want it, it's okay. You don't have to work for it. But with what you want, you got to work and get it, because people not going to give it to you. And if you give it to you, you don't deserve it. You got to work to go out and earn it, and that's where I got it from my parents.
No, I hear you. My dad was the same way. He was a mill guy here in Pittsburgh, and he would come home from work after working 2 shifts or whatever, and we always threw ball in the back, baseball, football, whatever it was. We didn't have much. We didn't have anything. And if I lost a baseball in the woods, he said, "Look, we're not going to play catch again until you find it. Go find it." And so, yeah, and I said, you got to learn how to be accurate when you only got one ball. But that's how it was, and you had a good support system. And then, when you grew up in your neighborhood, you had brothers and sisters, but did you have a lot of friends where you could go out and you had pickup games and do those types of things?
I tell people, no, I grew up in the country. I tell people one day asked me, said, "Herschel, have you played Ding Dong Ditch It?" I don't know if you know what that is. That's the ring, the next door neighbor doorbell, and you take off running. And I started laughing. They said, "What are you laughing at?" I said, "My next door neighbor probably 5 miles away. So if I had to ring that doorbell, I would have been running a long way to get home." And I said, no, I was just fortunate enough to have a big family that, we played together. Even today, I tell people, I said, guys, when you go back to my mom's house, she's been very fortunate now that she owns a lot of property, and we have a lot of guest houses on the property that a lot of the family stays there. So it's like a big. She's still in Georgia.
Is she still in Georgia?
It's like going back to the Olympics. The whole family is there, and we play all together. Like if some of the nephews and nieces got a date, you don't go to no movies. You don't go to dinner. You're right there at that house with your family.
Oh man, that's got to be intimidating for that date.
People see the love. They see the love, and I said that's what I think that I always had is the love. My mom is a minister. I have 3 sisters that's ministers. I got 2 brother-in-laws that's ministers, and so I grew up with it's love. I don't know anything else. And I said, you go out and you try your hardest all the time. In the classroom. I knew if I didn't do what was right, I was going to get a spanking. Not that I'm advocating spankings and stuff, but I knew if I didn't do what was right, even when I was at University of Georgia, I knew I better not step out of line because my parents was only 2.5 hours away. If Coach Dooley had called them up, I guarantee they would say, you tell Herschel to stay right there. We'll be right up there. Because I knew what was right and what was wrong, and I think that's what helped me out so much.
Valet, stay, and play on your next getaway to Los Angeles. The Westin Bonaventure Hotel and Suites offers effortless access to all the City of Angels has to offer. Whether you're hoping to catch a concert or sporting event, our hotel is just moments away from all the action and accessible to Hollywood, beaches, museums, and theme parks. The package includes a guest room and valet parking. For reservations, use promo code PSF in the code box when making your online reservation, or call 1-213-624-1000 and ask for promo code PSF. Yeah, and I think today, if you think about it, a lot of kids don't get that, right? They just say, and we've tried to give our kids a chance to understand how to make those mistakes and understand things for themselves, but to really support them by saying, hey, we know what kids do, and we understand that you have friends and there's peer pressure, and we're not always going to be there with you. But just so you know, you can always call us. We'll always be there, and then we're going to work through problems. So don't be afraid to talk to us. And when it sounds like you had that great support system at home.
And I was able to talk to my parents and able to talk to my other brothers and sisters. And and what was so funny about it is we may joke with each other, sort of like on a football team. And I tell people this, I said, you may fight among each other, but no one else better not come in there and want to fight at you. You can fight among each other, but I tell you what, that opposing team better not come in or somebody else come in. I remember, and I won't even name this quarterback in the NFL. That was a quarterback in the NFL. I was watching a game on Monday night one day. And I watched he and a kicker on the sideline arguing. And all of a sudden, as they were arguing, they started pointing the finger at each other. And all of a sudden, the quarterback stopped and walked away. And I said, man, I lost respect for that guy there. And people said, what are you talking about? I said, because he's my leader. And I'm not asking him to put the kicker down and nothing like that. I said, but he's the leader, so whatever he says, go. But I said, because he walked away, he should have said, let's handle this behind the scene. But I said, I gained respect for him because I saw him do something else. I saw a tight end that was playing with him make a mistake and kept making these mistakes, and he grabbed him in the chest and threw him off the field. And I said, now that's my leader there, because you decided you got to do what's right.
Yeah.
And I said, guys, sometimes being a leader is a tough position, because you got to do what's right. I'm sorry to tell you, you don't represent yourself. You don't represent one person. You represent the team. And I said, everybody not going to agree with you. And I said, but you're my leader. So I'm going to follow you. I'm going to do what you tell me to do because you're my leader. And that's what I learned, because my mom and my dad were my leader. They taught me the right things to do. And I'm supposed to now take what they taught me and teach it to someone else. And, you said that, some kids don't get this. And I said, well, they should, because I should be responsible for giving it to some of them. And I even tell Christian that, as a Christian, I'm going to teach you this, but if I see his friends, I'm going to tell them. They may not like it. I'm not going to spank them, because now you can't spank kids.
Right.
You say you can't. But I said, I'm going to tell them, no, don't do that. That's not. And I said, give a kid positive reinforcement. Meaning, don't just come down on them. Give him some positive things, the reason why not to do it. Because I say, you want kids to think that they can conquer the world, because they can. But if you're always putting them down, so that's what they're going to feel. As you give them positive reinforcement. Because kids especially.
Yeah, I think I work with a doctor out of Connecticut, and he has a company called Winning Profile, Dr. Gary Russell, and he told me by the time a kid is 2 years old, they've heard no 26,000 times. No, don't do that. No, put that down. And it's just like, and he says, it's just our kids' brains are always growing and going until 16 years old, until they're always forming. And if you can, just like you said, it's so important. If you do positive reinforcement, it's so much more powerful. And giving that chance to think for themselves. That's what we got to do. And I think football players do that. I was telling someone, I said, guys, it is so interesting because I said, when you play a sport, you become involved with something that for morals is out of the reach of family. Like you're together, you sweat, you bleed, you cry, you do everything together. It's a bond that is like unmatchable. And I say, some guys I played with long and I've been around my brothers and sisters. And that's what's so funny. I tell someone, I've been closer to them than I've been with my brothers and sisters because I've been with them all the time. And I said, it's sad. Like some of my housekeeper, I've been with her longer than I've been with my mom. And you start thinking about that, you go, wow, that's kind of interesting. It is kind of interesting. But, but also the same thing is I didn't, you learned something very different. You from your mom, you're always like, for me and your parents, you're always like, well, it's my parents, you know what I mean? But this person that you're kind of just with and you're an equal to, your parents are always, for me, are always above you. You know what I mean? You're always learning. They're always trying to help. So when you went to high school then, I'm assuming if you lived out in the country like you said you did, I'm assuming your high school wasn't very big.
And I had one of the largest classes to graduate. I had 114 kids graduate. There was 844 kids in my high school, and that's 8 through 12. And so I had 144 kids to graduate. And this is what's so funny is I was valedictorian in my class. And it was strange because people said, how were you valedictorian in my class? I said, because when you grew up in the country, I can at least write my name. They couldn't even spell. No, I'm joking. But I said, it's funny because I worked. I said, I don't think I was smarter than anyone else, but I knew how to work. I never went out. I grew up I didn't go out. I didn't date. I didn't go to no prom. You go to the prom, like, you got to chop wood. You can't got time to go to no prom. I had to work. And I didn't mind. I was okay with that.
So when you say you had to work, did you guys live on a farm? Did you have a farm?
So I know everything about farming. I know everything about that. And
so were you one of those guys that had to get up at crack of dawn and feed the animals and do all that stuff?
It was another guy farm that I grew up on. I knew how to plant everything. And we had a couple of hogs when I was little. We did a couple of hogs, so I had to get up early on with them. But then we never had any cattle. We had horses. So I had a couple of horses, and that's how I know how to ride and do all that stuff and rope and all that crazy stuff. But I grew up in that we had to get up early no matter what because, when you get up early, you had to go out and I had to chop wood before I left to go to school to make sure there was wood there. Then I would go to school and if I had to play sports, I had to come back home and maybe chop more wood and stuff. And, we had chores around the house that I had to do. I even have to wash dishes. I was thinking, wait a minute, washing dishes? Why do I need to wash dishes? So that was one reason I started playing football because I thought it was going to get me out of washing dishes. I'm like, crap. Let me start playing football, and that'll get me out of washing dishes. And that was a big mistake because they save the dishes for you.
Yeah.
So you still got to wash. Then my mom always
saved
said,
all the
my mom and
dishes.
dad said, if you start something, you got to finish it. So when I started football, I was too stupid. Now I said, oh, man, I still got to wash dishes. So I might as well drop out of football. Where I started it, now I got to finish it. So that's how I finish playing.
Yeah. So then when you would have a game, let's say Friday night for you guys at school, I guess the whole your whole family would just show up for every game.
5,000 people at the game. That's the whole town of Wrightsville, Georgia, 5,000 people at the game. And it was packed, standing room only and stuff. And I tell you, it was exciting. It was exciting for us.
So let me ask you this, because I always think back to my high school days too, when we had packed games in Pittsburgh, and just something about Friday night lights. You know what I mean? Like, even though you played college, you played in the biggest games, you won a national championship, you've done all that in the NFL, but something about Friday night lights, man, was just
that's
different.
The whole town. It's like it's a camaraderie in the town, because we lived in this little area, and I don't know if you ever heard of a little area called not Swainsboro, that's Barry Young, but Sandersville, Georgia. At one time, Sandersville, Georgia had more guys in the NFL than anyone in the league. So they were close by. And we had a little town called Swainsboro, and Wilkinson County, and Cochran. And they put a couple of guys in college and all that. So Friday night, everything closed down. And it was like, get it on.
Hey, listeners, thanks for joining Dave and I in the Huddle. We invite you to join our exclusive Huddle through Patreon, where you can get access to content made just for VIPs like yourself. Head to our website, huddleupwithgus.com, and hit support our podcast on the pop-up ad. Once again, that's huddleupwithgus.com. Now, let's get back in the huddle. Oh, yeah. Those were the good old days, man. Riding a bus to a game, and you and your buddies. You know what I mean? It was just something different about that.
And you didn't know, you didn't dream. This is honest truth. I never dreamed of playing college. I dreamed like being with my friends here. We having a good time. We're winning football games. And that's what, that was my biggest dream. I never dreamed that I ever, how can you dream to go to college? That's too big. That's too much to think about. That's too far out there to think about. So that was kind of wild.
Yeah. We didn't even know about that stuff until you got like a letter in the mail, right? Now every kid's seeing it when they're in 8th grade. It's like these, they can see all the social media and everything that's going on. I think it's insane that all the pressure we put on kids for doing all that, because I'm sure, like me, you probably played multiple sports in high school. I was a basketball player. I ran track. I played baseball. I did every sport you can name, and I was decent. I was decent at a bunch of them. And it was fun. I got scholarships in 3. I got scholarships in basketball, track and field, and football. And what was fun is I got scholarship to North Carolina in basketball. And people say, "You did?" I said, "Yeah, guys, I used to hoop." Wow. But then as I was looking at myself in the mirror, I'm looking at at that time I was 5'11", about 212 pounds, 215 pounds, and I was a starting forward in high school. So I'm thinking 5'11". Yeah. Football, basketball. Let's be honest. I don't have the body for a basketball player. So I went to play football, but and we'll get there in a minute. But I signed a track scholarship at Georgia. I didn't sign a football scholarship. I ran track. Really?
I used to love to run.
What'd you run? What'd you run?
I was a sprinter.
You're a 100 meter.
And I tell people you'd always ask me, "Herschel, you're too big to run." And I would say, "I never read that in the Bible. I never read it in the Bible. You have a certain size."
Where does it say that?
I said, "I never knew that." I said, sometimes when you're naive and stupid, God take care of you, because I never read that you're too big to run. I never read that you can't run fast. All I know is you just run. That's all you had to do."
Do you think that running track really made you faster? Like, 'cause I think that, like, I told kids all the time, like, they just want to do football. I'm like, no, go do track in the fall, in the spring. If you do nothing else, it's going to help you increase your speed.
Sports that you can do. Don't just do football. Do track and increase my speed. Because I tell people, there's a big difference in track speed and football speed. And people say, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Guys, it's just different." I said, it is totally different. And people were shocked that I can run as fast as I can run. I said, guys, I had to run with guys that was smaller, and they used to talk a lot of trash. I'm like, hey, I used to get bullied when I was little, so I don't want to hear people talking trash to me. I was like, shoot, I'm going to be like Muhammad Ali. I'm great too. Shoot, I can run with you. So I ran with some of the fastest guys in the world, beat a ton of them. And I said, because I can run too. That size don't matter. And I tell people that's the same thing as stepping into the octagon, stepping into the ring and all that stuff. I'm like, because you've been doing it longer than I have, that don't mean you're supposed to win.
Right, exactly. It's funny. I coached Ezekiel Elliott in high school, and Zeke was a hurdler. He ran the short hurdle, long hurdles. I mean, he did it all. And he'd leave football practice and go and train for track. And he was just his speed was uncanny on a football field just because of that. And he also was a 100-meter guy too. But he did it all. And he would say, "Hey, coach, can I go train?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, go train. Do what you got to do." As long I never told a kid you can't go do something if you want to go do it. Why do that?
I always hear every kid, they at one time want to be Stephen Curry. I want to be Stephen Curry. I want to be Stephen Curry. I said, okay, if you want to be Stephen Curry, have you seen videos of Stephen Curry shooting a basketball at 3? I said, it ain't just he came out of his mom's womb able to play in the NBA. That kid been practicing forever. So if you want to practice, go do it. But you got to practice. You got to work. And then people laugh at all the workouts that I do. And I said, guys, I didn't do the workout. I'm not trying to impress anyone with my workout. My thing is my high school coach told me that, Herschel, what you got to do is you got to think about Wilkinson County, meaning those guys over there are practicing because they want to beat you. So you got to work harder. You got to do a little bit more push-ups. We didn't have the weight program. You got to do a lot more push-ups. Maybe you do 50 more because they're bench pressing like 225 pounds. Herschel, you need to do 1,000 more push-ups over there. Oh, they're over there at Herschel. They can squat. They can squat at that time in high school. They can squat 300 pounds. So you need to do probably maybe about 2,000 sit-ups. And I said, that's what I was thinking. I said, sort of like, you remember Mr. T when you're going to beat Rocky up and he was homeless. And Rocky was a champion, and he's over there jumping rope like Mary had a little lamb, and he's kissing babies, and they cut away to Mr. T. Mr. T is sweating and hitting the bag and stuff. And I said, guys, that's the way it is in life and in competition. You think that you're the top dog. Yeah. But there's someone that's going to show up one day that's been practicing. You've been training. And you got to be ready.
Let me ask you a question last one about high school here is when I coached Ezekiel, and I also coached Foya Lucan, who plays for the Falcons too. When I coached those two, I said, look, guys, I'm going to be harder on you than anybody else on this team. We only had 28 kids. They were a small school in St. Louis. And I said, because they all look up to you. They're going to follow you more than they follow me. Did your coach ever talk to you like that? Say, Herschel, I'm going to work you harder than everybody else because I know.
He dogged me bad because he said, Herschel, I know you can do it. He said, I know you can do it. And he said, everyone want to quit sometime. Everybody want to take the shortcut. So when that shortcut in the back of your mind, you take it today, you take it tomorrow. And he said, that ain't life. Life ain't that. Life is not taking the shortcut. Life is getting up. He said, think about your father. My dad got up early every morning and went to work. He did that swing shift sometime. Meaning he'd sometimes work all night. He said, he'd come home. He said, think about him and and you're out here goofing off. And I was going to say, you got to be a great coach because you coach some good people. And you put them in the NFL and you put a good mindset because everything, I think that the difference between a great athlete and a good athlete is so little. I think mindset is you really want to pay that price. And for the long term, how much gasoline you got in your tank. Because you got to do it every day. Not just today. You got to do it every day. Every day. And it becomes a grind.
It does become a grind. And then you think about the guys who go into the military and how they break them down when they go in for basic training. My wife's little brother, he was an Army Ranger. We've had military in our family forever. And, you hear the stories about basic training and how it broke them down. And I always think about that through 2-a-days and everything that we've always gone through is, that's how we build up. You break them down, you build them back up. And we're going to find out who has the gas in the tank, to help us get to where we want to go.
So there's a price to be paid. You can't just go out there and just think it's going to happen. It don't just happen. There's no big explosion that, oh, gee, great, let's go do it. No, it don't happen like that.
So then, was it always going to be Georgia?
Georgia was so far off my list because at first, I was headed to the military. Even though I got scholarships, academic scholarship, can you believe that I got academic scholarship to go to college? And I was getting all these athletic scholarships to go to college, and I really didn't want to go. I wanted to go into the military because I'm one of these guys that love America. I just think that people sacrifice so much, and I owe so much to my coach, so much to my parents, so much to my family, and I just thought the military was a place for me to be at. I wanted to be a Marine. And I couldn't tell my mom and dad at that time because, I'm valedictorian in my class, I was a great student, I was doing well in sports and stuff, that Mom, Dad, I don't really want to go to college. My sister just went to college. She went to the University of Georgia on a track scholarship. And I couldn't just tell them that. And, signing day for college athlete was like February. Well, February, I didn't say nothing. I didn't sign. I didn't say anything. I just thought that if I just let it go, they'll let me go to the military. And I remember Easter Sunday, my nickname is Bo. And I told you my mom was a minister. My mom came in there and she said, Bo, don't you think it's time for you to decide where you want to go to school? And before I can say, Mom, Dad, I want to go to the military, she said, but let me tell you this. She said, if your mind and your heart is pure of the Lord Jesus, it really don't matter about your decision because God will make it right for you. I'm a 17-year-old kid. I'm about a 16-and-a-half-year-old kid. I'm like, what are you talking about? So I said, okay, Mom, I'll flip a coin. So that's how I ended up going to the University of Georgia. I flipped the coin to decide to go to military, go to college. It came up with me to go to college. Then I flipped between 3 schools, what school to go to. And the honest truth, it came up Georgia. And then, this was really freak out. People think I'm lying, but you can ask my family. I ended up pulling the names out of a bag. I pulled Georgia all 3 times. And I'm going to Georgia. I'm going to Georgia.
So you knew it was it.
Gus, I didn't even mean it at that time. I was embarrassed to tell my parents I was joking. And I went outside to play with my younger brother. They called up everyone and said, he's decided he's going to come to Georgia. He's coming to Georgia. And everyone showed up at my home, like reporters and TV cameras and all this. And I was too embarrassed and thought, guys, I was just joking. I went to the military. And I signed to go to the University of Georgia. I wasn't really totally keyed in on it. But I was 16 and a half, 17-year-old kid. Yeah. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. But and my mom said something else, that sometimes when you're naive and stupid and you love the Lord Jesus, He'll take care of you. And I said, God has been taking care of me because that was the right decision I could have ever made in my life. Because He's done so many great, great things for me.
Hey Huddle Up fans, this is producer Logan Carney. We thank you for listening to another great episode. If you want to hear more about how sports can change somebody's life, be sure to check out my novel, Our Seats in Left Field, on Amazon. Our Seats in Left Field is about Andy Smith, a 16-year-old kid who grows up a big Pirates fan with his dad. Right before the Pirates' 2013 magical season, he loses his dad to cancer. Read all about how Andy overcomes his depression while the Pirates find a way to win. That's Our Seats in Left Field on Amazon. You can buy it right now. Now, let's get back in the huddle.
Oh, yeah. What a great decision. I mean, even if you would have went to the military, but in the way I look at it, it's all come full circuit for you because you did everything now that you can help and support a lot of veterans in the military that
I do.
means so much to you.
I started a program called Patriot Support about little over 12 years ago. And I got to thank UHS out of King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. They've helped to give me 40 behavioral health hospital and mental health. So I try to remove stigma of mental health. And I'm at a base almost every 3 weeks talking about that stigma because people don't know after football, after the NFL, I developed an anger problem. I didn't know what really was going on. Yeah. I'm thinking, what the world is going on with Herschel Walker? Guys, I never drank. I never tasted alcohol, never had a beer. Never taken a drug, don't even take medicine. And I'm trying to figure out, why do I have an anger problem? And, everyone else is wrong except me. And I found out I was diagnosed as having DID, dissociative identity disorder. And I'm like, what the crap is that right there? And I wrote a book about it, about dissociative identity disorder. And the book did so well. And I ended up investing in behavioral health hospitals. But what was fun is I went to a hospital myself just because I didn't believe it. Because it's supposed to be a mental problem.
Right.
And, a person with a mental problem got to be a monster. You want TV, you got to be a monster. Got to be somebody that's crazy guy.
Well, or they're weak, or they got to ask for help, and we don't do that. We don't ask for help.
And when I went to a hospital and had these professionals to help me, they helped me to see the light. And I got out of that hospital, and my life opened up even bigger and brighter. And, sometimes you consider weak, and that's when I got into the MMA, been beating up everybody and built companies as well and stuff. And that's when I really was able to go to the military and try to help them remove that stigma and tell them that, guys, you're the true hero. You're the Superman, the Batman, the Hulk that we think about because you sacrifice so much and you do so much for this country, the greatest country in the world. And There's no shame to ask for help. Don't think that you're all alone. And that's sometimes what we feel like, is that when you suffering from some problem that you're all by yourself. And I said, no, you're not by yourself. Don't think that you're by yourself. And over the last last year alone, I think we helped over 7,500 military servicemen and women. Now, God, that's my love.
That's awesome.
I don't know what else I can
thank
do
you.
to thank my Lord Jesus Christ for all He done for me. Because that's what's so funny. I tell people sometimes, if I tell you what God has done for me, people think I'm lying. If I tell you what I do during the day, people think I'm lying. That I don't even tell people, because I think they'll say, Herschel, you're not telling the truth. Like my companies I have, how I do this and I do that. And I was fighting. I step into the cage with any fighter in the world, and I can hold my own. You're crazy. And I'm like, no.
Right.
That's the blessing that God has given me. And so I got to thank Him for bringing me this far. And I said, I'm from Wrightsville, Georgia.
Yes.
I played football in college. I played football in the NFL from Wrightsville, Georgia. So I want all the little kids that are listening to me to hear this. You can do it too, because all you got to do is be willing to work, be willing to pay the price by doing the right thing, by going to class, by saying yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, by standing up, believing in yourself that you can do it. You can do what I'm doing. I'm nobody special. That's what's so funny. I'm from Wrightsville, Georgia. There's nothing in Wrightsville, Georgia but good people. And
Well, I think that the University of Georgia would say there's definitely something special about you, because I think you went from a 5. What'd you say you were in high school?
Yeah,
5'10" to like 212 pounds, and you came out of college at like 6'2".
I got about 220 and stuff in college. But this was gonna really freak you out. People ask me when I thought I was a good football player. I thought I was a decent football player with Danny White with the Cowboys. And you should hear what I said, decent. Because, I'm supposed somebody asked me when I was in college, I think I carried the ball like 30-something times. Oh, how do y'all feel? I said, well, that ball ain't heavy. And people said, that's funny. I said, no, it's not funny. I'm just saying, that's my job. I don't know.
Right.
If you gave me the ball 50 times, that's my job. And, that's what we practice for. If I'm going to run this play, I don't know that you're not supposed to get it. If you're supposed to get it 50 times, I get it 50. That's so what? My job is to carry the ball.
Right.
Well, that's my job. So I'm supposed to do my duty, and then I go back to college. And I said this to someone the other day. I said, I am upset and I'm hurt. People said, what about? I said, because Herschel Walker at the University of Georgia was All-American. I was All-American. I was All-American running back for 3 years. Not one of my offensive linemen has been an All-American. Not one. And I said, guys, I'm hurt because look at Gus. This, and I'm not just trying to be humble. And look at the film when I played at the University of Georgia. You don't see me get hit in the backfield not one time. You don't see the play against Bill Bates that everybody talk about. You know this. That hole opens up as big. You can drive a Mack truck through it. And I'm like, guys, if I wasn't supposed to run, I would have been a terrible running back. So I asked people, guys, how in the world can you give me praise, but the guys that was up front that I never got hit in the backfield, I hardly ever got hit at the line of scrimmage. So that meant I got an opportunity to get to the second level. And if I can get to the second level and pass that second level onto a defensive back, hey, that's what I'm saying.
It's over.
I was supposed to run.
Yeah. Well, you know what that reminds me of when I was with the Vikings and Adrian Peterson was there, and he had an amazing year that year, and I said, "What are you going to do for the linemen?" He said, well, "What do you mean you got to do for the linemen? They get paid just like I get paid." I said, "No." I said, "They don't get any of the accolades. They do all the work. You got to take care of them. That's part of it. Because they're selfless. They're fighting everything off. They're doing He goes, well, I'm doing my job. And it just me sitting down having that conversation with them is that's just how it is. Like, because he went in. I said, you got to take care of the trainers and the equipment guys. And he goes, why? They all make money. I said, yes, but they're there for you all the time. Right. Those guys aren't in the Pro Bowl. You're in the Pro Bowl, right? And that's not. If it was only you, you wouldn't be in the Pro Bowl because it'd be 11 guys knocking you on your butt.
It's a team.
So
that's what people understand. There are some guys.
Right.
They're like this. And I heard this. They said, Herschel, if you're a janitor, be the best janitor you can be. Be the best janitor you can be.
Right.
But you're not going to be paid that much. But then, if you're the best janitor that you can be, and somebody walk in that's the big time guy, he sees this and go, man, that guy is incredible. I'm gonna give him something because I don't have to step over this trash that may be laying there because he cleans sure, he makes sure. So that's like that lineman. It's so funny. He's giving up something, and he's not making the money, getting the accolade you're getting, but he's making it easier for you and stuff. So what you ought to do is slide him a piece of it, give him a piece of it too. And I believe that.
Right.
Lots of guys.
That's the same with a trainer, with an equipment manager, all those guys. The weight coach, I always took care of those guys. Got them, hey, what do you guys need? What do you want? And then some kids came in, didn't believe in that stuff, and you just got to kind of have a conversation with them why those things are important, because it's not just our 53 guys on this team.
Right.
It's this whole building that's a
what
team.
What makes you a champion? And I tell people this with the Patriots. As a guy, the Patriots is not just good because of Tom Brady. Because I hate to tell you, people say that, they're always in the Super Bowl. I say, yeah, but they're with different players. They're not the same players. They got different players.
Yeah.
That mean that whole organization got that winning on the attitude. I said, so it ain't just him. He's a part of it, but it's a lot more involved than just you. And I think a lot of people don't understand that.
Start your day sunny side up at the Westin Bonaventure Hotel and Suites and enjoy breakfast for two on us. No matter how you plan to spend your trip to Los Angeles, start every day with a hearty meal to kickstart your morning. Enjoy breakfast for two on us each day you stay. For reservations, be sure that promo code S4B appears in the promo code box when making your online reservation at Marriott.com/LAXBW or call 1-800-228-9290 and ask for promotional code S4B.
So when you won the Heisman Trophy, did you go back to your linemen and you say, thanks, fellas? You know what I mean? Because I think that's a big thing. I think a lot of guys should do that. I was upset because none of my linemen got any credit.
I said, I'm confused. How in the world, and I'm going to ask you that because you know this. How in the world could Herschel Walker be an All-American, but none of his linemen make it? It makes really no sense.
Yeah, that's
it's like, how
that makes no
sense
at all.
American, but none of my linemen make it. And I'm like, guys, that makes no sense. I had a couple to get drafted, but I'm like, that is not fair.
Well, I knew if I was playing Herschel Walker, how many guys I was putting in the box, right? They got to have somebody blocking, right?
But this was so funny. At practice, this is what was weird in college. Coach Dooley used to give the defense our plays. They knew we were going to run the ball. And he said that, why are we concerned about it? They got 11, we got 11. Put them in that box, and what you got to do is you got to get on your man. And I think that's what made us such a great team because it was 3rd and 15, and we were going to run a sweep. We're not passing nothing. I said, we threw 2 passes in the game. They threw it to the referee when the game started. He threw it off the field when the game was over. That's the pass that we got. I said, we ran the ball because we practiced, and we said no one is going to stop it. And he would give the defense our plays, and we would go out and knock someone's head off. But this is what was interesting. The national championship game in college against Notre Dame. Notre Dame had this great team, all these great athletes, went to pro ball and stuff, and we beat them. But what was funny is I had never watched that game. I knew we won it, great, won the championship. I had never watched the game, and I got MVP and stuff, and probably maybe 15 years, I shouldn't say 15 years, but probably about 15 years later, they had a reunion or something, and I went to the reunion, and they happened to play this game. And I was sitting there watching the game, and I got embarrassed. And this is no lie, guys. The game is, 60 minutes? Our offense was on the field for 10 minutes. The defense played the whole game. The defense, and I apologized to the defense 15 years later. I was like, man, I thought I was like that big-headed dude that went out and did something great. our defense stopped Notre Dame every darn time it was up. They would stop Notre Dame, and I went, whoa. I was like, I cannot believe this. I'm like, guys, y'all should have got every praise in the world. If people go back and look at the 1980 Georgia Notre Dame game, you will see our defense was on the field for 50 minutes. And I'm like, what?
Wow. So that means you had to score a lot. What was the final score of that game?
And I'm like, their defense stopped Notre Dame, who had Notre Dame end up putting, I don't know how many guys in pro ball from their team, but I'm sitting there thinking, guys, you got to be kidding me that our defense played like that and they gave me MVP. I'm like, wait a minute. So that just goes to show you sometimes that your name carries you, people not looking at the true situation.
Yeah.
Because when I look at the game, there was a guy by the name of Frank Ross on that defensive line, was a middle linebacker, Eddie Weaver, who was a nose guy, Scott Warner, who was a defensive back. The way they played, I'm like, guys, they could have won MVP because they stopped this defense that was this offense that was absolutely incredible. They stopped them every play.
Right. So then you have this incredible college career, and then after 3 years, you're deciding to go into the pros. What made you kind of make that transition, that decision, saying, I'm going to go and now I'm going to go work and I'm going to earn a paycheck and all those things?
No.
Kind of that mindset, or what was it?
Coming out. That's Donald Trump. The USFL was coming out, and I was sitting in my place in Athens, Georgia, and I was like, the USFL or the NFL? No, USFL or college. So at that time, underclassmen were not even able to go to the NFL unless they sponsored. So I said, USFL or stay here in college. And I remember my mom said, if your mind and heart are pure to the Lord Jesus, no matter what decision you make, He'll make it right for you. And I flipped the coin. And it came up for me to go to the USFL, and that's why I went to the USFL. It had nothing to do with anything else. I went to the USFL, and people said, why would you do that? So that hurt your career. I said, no, not really, because USFL taught me something even better, made me a better football player. And let me tell you the reason why. I had a coach, it was the very first year, it was a coach by the name of Clark Gaines. Clark Gaines played for the New York Jets at one time. He was a fullback. He coached Maurice Carthon and myself. You know, I played with Maurice Carthon with the Giants. Yeah. Maurice became a coach also in the NFL. And Maurice Carthon, and you talking about a coach being hard on you. Now, I was a Heisman Trophy winner. Coach Clark Gaines was so hard on Maurice and I that I wanted, I'm going to fight this dude. I'm like, hey, this is untrue.
Hey, everybody's on equal ground when you come in, man, right?
You know how you run a 5-yard out? If we go 4 yards and a half, that coach would come down on us like we just like you're supposed to block and you keep the guy off the quarterback, you hit him in there and knock him off. He come down on you that you didn't set up right, and I'm like, dude, but
you're like, Coach, where's this positive coaching?
Later, you'll see with Maurice Carthon, and I said he was the best coach I ever had in my life. And people said, what are you talking about? I said, because let me tell you what, he made me better because of the little things. I was a big superstar and all that, but the little things, because people don't realize when I played pro ball, you know, when I was at Georgia, I only ran the ball. I just ran, I'll run it. When I got into the NFL, when I got into the USFL, you know how many passes I called? And I played wide receiver a lot. Well, it's because of Clark Gaines. He said, Herschel, when you run that 12-yard out, it's 12 yards. There's not no 10 and a half. It ain't no 15. It ain't this. It is 12 yards. Because that quarterback, you know this, the quarterback have a timing. 1, 2, 3, bam. And he read it. And I was like, wow, that's what taught me that, is having a coach like that said, no. Just because you're a superstar, you're not getting away with cheating. You know, you got to stick that head in. You block, put that head up in there, in that chest, and you get that guy off. He said, that's what you got to do. Hey, when you got to do this here, you got to hit that hole right here. You got to watch. And that's what made me better.
Well, you know why it's so important? Because even though you were a superstar, there's other superstars out there in the NFL. And if you think you can just do whatever you want willy-nilly and the little things aren't important to you, those other superstars are doing the things that are important to them. Just like that coach, when he told you, hey, they're doing this many bench presses, you got to do more push-ups, right? It's the same idea. they're out there working harder and doing it right. And if you're not doing it right, we're not going to win.
I like that. And that showed me there that the years of fair, you got to do it correct. You got to do it correct, and you got to be like that. And that's where I started doing it. So that's what changed my life. And when I got to the Cowboys, that's when I really knew that I was a football player from Dan and White.
Yeah, so then you get to the Cowboys. You have a one of your best years ever with the Cowboys, and then a few years later, you go through this crazy trade. That I don't know if you asked for it, or I'm not sure about the whole story, but that is a transition that a lot of people have to deal with. Like, man, I am just uprooted. I'm gone of someplace I love to be, and then I'm going somewhere new. What was that like
I
for you?
just led the league in rushing and NFC, and I got a big head now because I'm pretty cool and stuff. And had just and people don't know, when I first got to the Cowboys, I ended up breaking the Cowboys receiving record as a running back. I ended up breaking that receiving record. You know how many great receivers they've had? So I'm pretty big time. I think I'm cool. And then they bring in new coaches and new everybody, and I think I'm safe. I just led the league in rushing and this and the NFC, and all of a sudden I get traded. I didn't even know there was a trade happening, and I wasn't going. I played 5 games with the Cowboys. I wasn't going on trade. I'm not going on trade because I had a no trade clause in my contract. So I'm like, I'm not going on Minnesota.
Right.
I love Dallas. I'm not going to Dallas. So what was interesting, Jerry asked my agent, what do they want? What do Herschel Center want to go to Minnesota? And I'm like, I don't want anything. I'm not going to Minnesota. He said, what do you want? So we started thinking of all this junk. We really didn't want all that stuff. We're going to let Jerry know we're not going to Minnesota. It's like everything we want, brand new cars, brand new houses, all this junk. We didn't really want that stuff. And he agreed to everything we asked for.
Right.
So now we're like, oh, crap, now we got to go to Minnesota. But I went up to Minnesota, and this is the honest truth. Minnesota, I thought, was a hidden secret. That's one of the best places I ever lived in my life. I thought the people were incredible. Now the football team was weird because they wouldn't let me play that much. I think the coaches was mad at me because the coaches never knew there was a trade happening. Management did the trade. The coaches never knew. And so I was there, didn't really, I played off and on, and but I love the people. I love Minnesota. I lived in Edina, and I tell you, the people, all the people were so great to me. And I told people that, I said, guys, I owe Minnesota so much because the people were absolutely wonderful to me there. I tell you, incredible place.
They're great
I go back
people.
Today, I still got property there. I go back today, and I remember my contract was up, and people were like, what are you going to do, Herschel? What are you going to do? And I was getting called from guys from around the league, and that was a guy by the name of Reggie White, the Minister of Defense, called me up. Reggie and I were friends, and Reggie said, Herschel, I want you to come to Philadelphia. He said, that's a city of brotherly love, man. I want you to come to Philly. That's a city that love brothers. I'm like, wow. Let me go to Philly, bro. Hey, let me tell you what. Philly's a tough place. But I love Philly. I got a chance to be there with Randall, with Clyde Simmons, Reggie White, Seth Joyner, Andre Water. I got a chance to play with those guys. Let me tell you what, that was absolutely incredible. And I love Philly. Philly is a tough town. They're tough people. They love their sports. They support their sports. And let me tell you what, I love Philly.
I'm just glad that I didn't play for the Redskins when all those guys were with the Eagles, with Jerome Brown, everybody. Oh man, what was their nickname? That defense?
Geez, good God! I remember one year when they played a Monday night game, and this is no joke. I remember watching it, and I hardly ever watch football. I just happened to watch this Monday night football game, and Warren Moon was the coach. I think Ernest Givens was playing for the Houston somebody. Yeah, well, what was funny, this from Philadelphia defense was so darn good. Warren Moon was throwing the ball over the middle, and the defense was hitting the receivers of Houston so hard, the receivers wouldn't even look no more. He was hitting them in the head with the ball because they were running across. But that defense would knock your head off.
Oh, yeah, they had the body bag game with the Redskins. Remember, they knocked all the quarterbacks out. Then Brian Mitchell had to come in and play.
They scored more points in the offense. I was like, wow. That was incredible. And I was there for like 3 more years, and then I moved again.
Well, and then also, while you're still playing, you became a bobsledder.
While I was playing, it was weird during the off season.
How did that all become about? That's crazy.
I'm always doing something. Because people don't know, even when I was at Georgia, I used to play on Saturdays, went to church Sunday morning, and I fought in martial arts tournament Sunday afternoon. The 3 years I was at Georgia. I did it all 3 years when I was at Georgia. So when I got to Minnesota, during the off season, they had something called the Superstars. That's when they get a bunch of athletes together and you compete and stuff. And that was a guy by the name of Willie Gault that was playing for Chicago Bears at the time. And Willie and I grew up not close by from each other. He was from Griffin, Georgia, and we used to compete against each other and all this stuff. And one day Willie said, Herschel, we want you to go out for the bobsled team, the Olympic bobsled team. I'm like, oh, yeah, I do it like this because I'm a great athlete. I'm going to do it. I didn't know what the bobsled was. And Willie ain't never called me about no bobsled. Well, one day he called me up and told me you got to go to Lake Placid to try out for the bobsled team. And I was thinking, bobsled? Like, what the heck is a bobsled? I never even seen a bobsled before. I never watched the Winter Olympics.
Right.
I never really watched the Olympics. This is what people don't know about. I never even watched sports on TV. People don't know. I never watched sports. I never watched.
Really? So you really didn't have any clue what you're getting
football.
into.
This is honest truth, girls. I never watched football on TV. I don't know. I didn't know. I never saw OJ play, or Gale Sayers, or Jim. I never seen them. So what was funny, I said, okay, then. I told Will I'd do it, but I'm thinking I hate cold weather, and it's cold around the bobsled. So what I'm gonna do, and this is the first time I ever thought this. And, my coach didn't teach me this. I said I'm gonna go to Lake Placid only because I told Willie I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna try not to make this team because I don't want to go to Europe for like months and freeze my butt off. I'm not doing that. So I went up there to Lake Placid, and at the time, I think there was about 1,400, maybe 1,500 kids that were trying to make 15 spots. Well, probably 98% of them didn't like Herschel Walker because they thought because I was a professional player that I shouldn't be there. And I was being bullied almost when I was a little kid. They're putting me down, and I shouldn't be there. And something hit me back here because I'm like, wait a minute now. If you want to compete against Herschel, we can compete. One thing I do know how to do now. I may not know how to push this sled, but I do know how to compete. So I ended up being the best pusher out of all those guys there in the United States, which meant I now get selected to the U.S. bobsled team. So now we go to Altenburg, Germany.
So tell me. I was going to ask you, so tell me about the first time you go down on the sled. What was that like? Because I know that has to be a crazy experience. I never been down on the sled yet because now you're just doing the push. You never went down in the sled. Right.
Well, we go to Altenburg, Germany for the World Push Championship. Now, I only pushed the sled one time. Now I make the Olympic team, and there's 15 players on this team, and probably 13 of them don't like Herschel Walker because they're mad that I'm not the best pusher in the U.S., so I shouldn't be on the team. And I'm like, dude, why do y'all getting on me? I'm like, I'm your teammate. If you want to compete against me, we can compete. I win the push championship for the world, which meant I'm on the number one sled. I still never been down a run. Now I get a chance to go down a run for my first time, and I go, whoa, now this is wow. That is scary. That is a little scary because you almost, where you said you get down low enough to kiss your butt goodbye, you almost have to do that. You get that head down.
Oh, yeah.
And my driver, though, I just so happen to have one of the best drivers in the world by the name of Brian Scheimer. Brian was from Naples, Florida. So you got a guy from Naples, Florida, and Wrightsville, Georgia, representing the United States and the bobsled team. Two states that ain't got no snow. And we were roommates the whole way through. And let me tell you, it was the most incredible thing I ever been a part of something that I didn't want to be. And I reckon God was taking care of me because I got to the Olympics in Abbeville, France. And, through the World Cup, it was just bobsled and the sled team and all that. But when I got an opportunity to see the United States of America come together with the ski team, with all the Olympic people come together, for the first time, I almost cried. I cried since I got beat up in 8th grade. I was like, whoa, this is a kid from Wrightsville, Georgia. This is what I this is what I
representing your country.
Y'all can do this too. It ain't like I'm nothing special. I just went out of work. And that's what I'm telling you. When you sacrifice, you got to be willing to not go to that party because your friend are going. You got to be willing to say, I'm not going to go to that bar tonight. You got to be willing, no, I'm not going to drink. That's when you sacrifice. And I said, guys, that's what I've done all my life is I wanted to be an athlete. I don't know what type of athlete, but I want to be an athlete. So this is a price I'm paying here. Well, it is a darn good price. So I thought it was absolutely incredible.
No, that's amazing, and thank you for doing that. I actually played college football with a bobsledder. His name was Todd Hayes. Todd was a linebacker for us at the University of Tulsa. He was into martial arts as well. He was a kickboxer. He was a world champion kickboxer as well. And then he went into bobsledding, and we're like, all those guys from the football team were like, wait, isn't that Todd on the bobsled team? And then he loved it. He had the same experience you did, where you get there and you become a part of the U.S. in a way that you never thought you were. And you represent your country in a new way.
We represented the greatest country in the world, United States of America. And I'm like, guys, what can you ask for anything better than that? That's the reason I love our United States military. Because, guys, you're representing the greatest country in the world. Not only that, you're protecting and making it the greatest country in the world, because we're not the greatest country in the world because of McDonald's or because of the Dolphins or because of the Cowboys. We're the greatest country in the world because of our United States military that's protecting us. And I said, man, is that not a great team to be a part of right there?
It is. So tell me about your initiative and how you're supporting our veterans.
One of the things I do is every 3 weeks, I have like I said, a Patriot support. Me and a young guy by the name of David Drew and Andy Landon, we may go out to a base. And what's weird is I get an opportunity, whether I'm out in the ocean with the SEALs, or whether I'm turning over in a plane, or whether I'm being, whether I'm training, I train with them, jumping out of a plane, all those things. And because most of the kids that's in the military have heard that name, Herschel Walker. Their dad grew up. Name, they see this weird guy that they haven't seen before get up in a plane, and we're up there and I'm jumping out of a plane with him. Like, who in the world is this guy? Or they see this guy that's out in the ocean with him for a couple of hours, like, who in the heck is this crazy dude? And then they sit down and listen to me. And that's when I talk to them about there's no shame to ask for help, that you're not less manly because you have a problem. That's when I tell them that you're not alone, that don't suffer alone, because sometimes that's what they think because they've seen so much. We send our young men and women over to another place, to another country, to fight for us, where they see things that they don't see here. They hear gunshots, they hear bombs going off every night. They hear these things, and they go out and they see things that we don't see here on our streets. Well, maybe now, but we don't see them on our streets, where they have to deal with those things every day. And all of a sudden, they come back, and some people can deal with it, some people can't. And the people that can't deal with it, people say, oh, they're crazy, they're not crazy. So that's what I try to help them to see. You're not crazy. You're not that monster that people think you are. You just put the wrong hat on. But let me help you and let you know that you can get some freedom and get some peace, because I've been through it. Because this was so funny. People don't know I've been through this. I'm talking deep in these deep places that you never thought Herschel Walker would be at. I've been there. And I got help. And I know that there's a light there.
Well, and it's so funny. My wife is a therapist. She's a social worker, and she works in women's behavioral health for women with postpartum and perinatal issues. And, she's always telling me about that. Like, you just never know who has issues. And it's so hard for people just to ask for help. And, and so many people, just something simple as just getting it out and talking about it can help. For me, we've been married now over 25 years. And we've done a lot of therapy to stay together, because that's a lot of. You have to go and talk your issues out, and if you don't you try to keep it all inside, it's not good.
People become so ashamed, like, oh, I'm the only one doing this. And the guys, they diagnosed me as having dissociative identity disorder, and I'm like, what the crap is that? What is that? And they said it's sort of like different personality, and the first thing I thought was sibling. Because, I seen that movie, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, I know I'm not no monster, I'm not crazy like this. And they said it has nothing to do with that, Herschel. What it had to do with is that You know,
Yeah.
you learn to, because you were bullied, you learn to put those feelings you have back here. You didn't deal with all that anger and those feelings. So what I was doing is use all of that anger and stuff through my athletic world. Like I would bring that anger out, and that's the reason I can play sports and I can do so many crazy, not I hate to say crazy things, I can do so many things because all that anger was displayed there. But then all of a sudden, when I now start ready to get out of sports, all that anger is in the streets. And you know, Michael Jordan one day said something, and I said, guys, that may be what I'm talking about. I said, you know, all the anger that I had with people said, Herschel, you played with like a dislocated shoulder, you played with a broken this and that. You played, I said, that's that anger that I had from being bullied. I said, Michael Jordan said, you know, when I'm in my zone, he said, I'm Superman. He said, I can faster, I can jump higher, I can do some amazing things. And I said, that's what I'm talking about. When you're in your zone on the basketball court, that is okay. But if you bring that to your house, you scare people to death. They don't understand it. Well, when I'm in my zone, that's the way I am.
Well, and I think a lot of veterans feel that way. You know, they're in that zone because you have to be. It's life and death.
Right.
It's life and death over there, right? And then all of a sudden they come over here and people, you know, it's just not the same. It's like you said, it's not the same. It's not life and death anymore, but it's a different kind of feeling. Yes, and I think that's why it's important what you're doing and telling your story and really talking about your book, Breaking Free, right? And it's so important that people read that. And there's people that want to help. And if they just ask for it, they'll get tons of it because I know there's a lot of people that really appreciate our military and thank them all the time for what they've done for us.
I thank them so much. And I told them, I said, they still encourage me. They encourage me all the time to be better than who I am. Because I said, you've given me this right, this freedom that I have. So I don't want to just squander it away. I want to use it for something. To help others. I want to help others with it because I owe it to them. And, you know, and Jesus even said, Herschel, you know, if you don't help someone else, who are you? This world ain't just about you. I hate to tell people this. I said, this world ain't just about you. I'm sorry to tell you this. But God put you here to help others too.
Well, there's 7.5 billion people in the world, so it's not just about you, right? So tell us where people can find your book and tell us how our fans can support you and your cause.
It is funny. If you go on, Amazon, you can get my book, Breaking Free, Herschel Walker, My Life with Dissociative Identity Disorder. And patient support, you know, and like I said, I thank UHS. You know, there's a private group that we've been doing it, but I love you to go on and just encourage me more. And go, I don't even know my Twitter and all my handles, all my son and my wife does it. And I tell people all the time, I say truth. It may not be what you want, but I said that's what's great about America. We have the right to think for ourselves, to decide for ourselves, and I think that's what is great about this country is we have the right to disagree without being bullied, without being put down, and that's what's so wonderful.
All right. Well, hey, one little last thing. I do this usually. It's called a no huddle drill, and it's kind of a lot of fun. It's our last 2-minute segment here, and I asked you just a couple questions and just kind of let the tension down. So, what's your biggest pet peeve?
People.
What's your favorite food?
You know, I only eat one meal a day. Honey bun.
Yeah, how do you do that?
I've been doing that for years. I started it when I was in college because, you know, I was graduating early and I didn't want to miss out on making that extra $2 an hour. So I wouldn't eat lunch and I never ate breakfast. And so my body got where I only eat one meal a day and I've been fine. I don't eat that much. You know, I own a food company, but I don't eat red meat anymore. I don't eat any fish, a little bit of chicken. I eat more soup and salad. I'm as tough as a horse. But like I said, my favorite food, and I probably shouldn't have said it, but I can have a honey bun and a Coke, and I'm as happy with everything. I'm like, man, that's the best thing. You know, my son introduced me to Frosted Flakes one time. Oh, those things are awesome. She goes, Herschel, those things not healthy for you. I said, they're healthy for me because they got grain, they had milk. I don't know what else they had in them, but I thought they were awesome. I was like, yeah, and people say, that's just sugar. I said, God just loves me then because I have no idea, but I don't get hungry.
That's pretty amazing that you can do that. I've known Terry Crews for a while, and Terry played with me on the Redskins, and he does intermittent fasting where he won't eat. He eats till like 10 o'clock at night till 2 the next day. And he's always talking about, by the time 2 o'clock, if I don't have food in front of me, I'm going to eat somebody's, it's just like I'm starving. So, but you've kind of worked through all that.
During game day, I never ate game, what do you call it, game meal, what do you call the pregame meal? I never ate.
Pregame meal.
Because if you eat pregame meal, normally the meal you ate on Saturday is going to be the energy you need for Sunday. So not the meal you're going to eat Sunday morning. You really need to eat a good meal Saturday. So I wouldn't eat. I may eat Saturday, and I wouldn't eat again until Monday night because I don't get hungry through the Sunday because I'm not going to eat because it's sort of like you feed, and this having dogs. If you feed a dog, he becomes lazy. Now you want to lay down. You want to keep a dog when he's working. You want to keep him hungry. You want to keep him working. And I said, I don't want to feed me. I want to stay hungry. So when I'm working all day, I don't want to eat anything because I don't want to get where I get sluggish. So I don't eat anything, and I just go.
That's awesome. I don't know if a lot of people can do that, but you definitely can.
Nutritionists get all mad at me, so don't do what I do. Sometimes I do stupid stuff.
All right, so if you could go back and give a young Herschel some advice, what would that advice be?
What would that advice be? Well, that is a good question. I think they let my mom play basketball with me when she was 79. Because, that really hurt me. And it makes me sad today when I think about that. Because, there's a lot of things I could have changed or done something different. But I tell people, all in all, the kid that beat me up is a kid by the name of Anthony Logan. I still remember his name. People said, what will I do if I saw him today? And I said, what? I probably wouldn't do anything to him. I probably think. And I said, I probably thinking because even though that may have had a big impact on me going to a hospital, like a behavioral health hospital, but all in all, my life hadn't been that bad. I may have had some tough setbacks going to the hospital with the things I went through, but all in all, my life hadn't been that bad. And so if I can give a young Herschel advice, that maybe be it. Just be honest to yourself. I am honest to myself. Would be to play basketball with my mom at 79.
That's good. Well, maybe you should drive over there and say, hey, Mom, let's go shoot some hoops. She probably makes some free throws, that's for sure. Now, I'm sure I don't know how much movies and stuff that you watch, but if you did, what is your favorite sports movie?
Is I just saw one about the kid from Arkansas, the football player, Burrs. What is it called? It was called I'm trying to name another one too. I can't even think of that. But I saw one about the kid that wore the glasses. Brian Bosworth. But I forgot the name of the movie. No, not Brian Bosworth, but the kid from Arkansas. And they got the college award named after him. He's the greatest walk-on. He walked Arkansas. And
okay.
I tell you
I haven't seen that one yet.
And just Googled it. It is probably one of the best movies. Burlsworth. Brian Burlsworth. But you want to Brandon Burlsworth. Let me tell you what, Gus. You want to see this movie because it's a true story. It's about this kid that he told everyone he was a fat kid. Told everyone Grader. That's the name of it, Grader. But he told everyone he was going to be a football player at the University of Arkansas. And people laughed at him, said, "You're too fat. You're too fat." He even went to a camp, and this movie is not that old. Went to a camp. The coaches told him he was too fat. He was too small to be an offensive lineman. And he said, "Coach, I'll work to do it." He worked not only to be an offensive lineman, but to start at the University of Arkansas. Not only to start at the University of Arkansas, but to play. He got drafted by the Rams in the first round. Well, this was interesting.
Wow.
He never played a down. He was drafted by the Rams.
Really?
He was going home to go to church with his mom, and he was killed. And let me tell you what, it's called Creator. Let me tell you, it's one of the best sports movies I've ever seen because it shows you if you have a dream and you're willing to work, you can conquer that great dream because no one believed in this kid. Even his brother believed in him. His mom did.
Yeah.
His mom believed in him. And people laughed at him and said, "You're too fat. You're not going to do it." And they said, and the coaches at Arkansas said, "You're too small. You need to gain weight." So he showed up at the University of Arkansas as a walk-on, 300 and something pounds, but he had a big old stump. He was out of shape. And the coach said, "Well, you got to get in shape." He worked to get in shape and became a starter. And not just a starter, an All-American. And not just an All-American getting drafted in the first round.
Well, hey.
I said, wow.
We're always looking for something good to watch around here, so I'll mention that to the family. But hey, Herschel, I really appreciate it. It was great meeting you. I've always been a fan, and I've always watched you growing up, and really appreciate how you approached your life and how you approached the game and everything else. So thank you for joining us on Huddle Up with Gus, and it's just been a pleasure for me to sit here and be able to talk with you.
Hey,
yeah, so have a great time, and right. I don't know what is the saying for Georgia? It's not just go Georgia, right? You guys got to like a yeah. There you go.
And this was funny. This year, and I'm not just saying it because this year was Georgia year. I'm telling you right now, they had players. And I'm not just saying it because it's Georgia. Georgia this year. I can tell you right now, this was going to be their year. I think Ohio State, Georgia, and Clemson was going to be the top three teams. And I'll tell you what, Georgia had, they got the kid from, Wake Forest, that walked by that was coming on.
Yeah.
And they got the running backs. Let me tell you, Georgia got running backs, receiver.
They always have running backs.
They had a team. And it's like, oh man, God, I want everyone to be safe with this virus. But let me tell you, Georgia got a team this year. Yes,
let's hope we get to watch them play. Yeah, a little bit. Anyway, I'm excited. So thank you again for joining me and Huddle Up with Gus. I really appreciate it, Herschel. Have a great night. All right, take care. See you, buddy. Thank you for joining Dave and I in the Huddle. We hope you enjoyed our podcast. If you'd like to hear more podcasts just like this, go to huddleupwithgus.com, where you can find our social channels, subscribe to hear more, buy our merchandise, and join our exclusive Huddle through Patreon. Please join us next week when we talk to more guests about how sports shape their life.